It's late. I'm fucking tired, but I'm gonna share some sauce with you boys, talking about how I made my SMMA clients worth 7K each. Now, I guess I want to talk about what this even means in the first place. And no, I'm not talking about charging them 7K. Well, I mean that is something you could do, but I'm talking about how I actually increased the LTV of my clients so that I made more money. Okay, and so I'm going to kind of be breaking down a high level sort of service fulfillment that you can do to make your clients worth more, to decrease churn. Okay, so the goal is to decrease churn while increasing cash collection or LTV. Okay, and so we just want to make the customer buy more often and also pay more often when they do that. So let's talk about how I actually made my estimate client worth 7K each. Super simple. Okay, so here's what typical like SMMA fulfillment looks like, right? You have your SMMA, and when you get a client, you run Facebook ads, and you also offer Go Eye Level. And here's the thing: is this is good, and this is solid, and this is enough to make your client good money and to have a good service and have a good business. You can make money doing this. But the problem is when we start talking about scale, for every additional client you bring on, it's just more work and more work and more work and more work and more work for you. Now, granted, that will always be the nature of a service-based business. That'll always be the nature of an SMMA. However, there's some things we can do to make our clients worth more so that we do less work while also getting our clients better results and, once again, making more money. So there's a few things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to share them with you, and then I'll talk about how you can implement them, okay? Which is, number one, a group, all right? Number two is a sales team. And then number three is a course. And I'm gonna talk about in depth because it's not just little nitty ditty course you put together. Like this actual, there's some high level stuff. And so there's the group, there's the sales team, there's the course, and then there's going to be the calls. Okay, and so what typical SMMA looks like is just this: Facebook ads and Go level. However, if you want to start to get more advanced, let's say you're making a couple $1,000 a month, you actually want to scale your SMMA and have a real business, right? And build something big for the long run, right? Like I'm talking about building a real business, getting to 50, 100, 150K a month. These are some of the things that you want to start to look at implementing for some of your clients too. Not only, here's the thing, is this doesn't just keep them longer because it makes your service cooler. It keeps them longer, right? You increase your LTV because it gets your clients better results. And so all these things, we don't just do them for context. You don't want to do these things for the sake of doing them. You want to do them for the sake of actually solving a problem. And so don't just be like, let me have a hire a sales team for my client when they don't need a sales team, okay? Or even, another thing we could add in here would be training. Don't add training if your client doesn't need training, okay? And there's so many other things we could do in here, right? That we could add to make your service better. But we're going to talk about the scalable things, which is these things here, okay? So number one, group. So what I mean by group, right, is to actually create a sort of inner circle, like a tribe, if you will, of your clients. So this group is going to be filled with your clients, and it's a group where they can communicate, right, plus network together. And so think about this. Imagine if you're in the plumbing space. Plumbers would love to talk with other plumbers because typically everyone that's in the plumbing space is the same kind of demographic, right? If you think of a plumber now, it's probably like a 30 to 50-year-old, man who's pretty, conservative and, handyman, good with his hands, yada, yada, yada. Right? And so they typically, every sort of niche, like if you think of gym owners, the demographic of gym owners and the demographic of auto detailers, right? And all these different, they're all kind of the same, and people like to hang out with their kind of tribe, right? They kind of like to hang out with their kind of group. The same way that I created my Wolf Pack, it's for a bunch of young entrepreneurs who run SMAs, who want to make money online together, hop on calls together, all that fun stuff, right? Like people want to be part of something where they can just where they have a group of guys that are with them that see eye to eye with what they do, right? And so people will actually like this if you set it up properly. And so how we want to set this up is with our clients, we want a communication network, is we want to set up on some sort of channel that they already use. And so this could be a Facebook group, right? This is an option. This could be a Slack channel, right? This could be a WhatsApp group. This could even be a Discord, depending on your clientele, like what kind of clientele do you have, where are they most active. And then all you want to do is you want to create a group where people can just engage with each other and interact. And what this also will do is granted you can only start to do this once you have enough clients, right? But what will happen is you'll start to have clients ask each other questions. And so guess what happens? When clients start to ask each other questions, it takes the load off you. They're asking you less questions. And so now what happens is they start to answer each other's questions. And so it makes your service more scalable and more valuable, because not only are they getting real world applicable advice from people in their niche, but it's also taking less time away from you, so you don't have to hire as many people to answer questions all the time, right? Not to mention the fact that they can network, people can send them referrals, yada, yada, yada. And guess what? Guess who put this all together? You did, right? Once again, the party, right? If there's a good party, people go, oh, like, I'm so happy for the host, right? But the thing is, the host isn't what makes the party good, but the host gets all the credit for making the party. It's the same way here. The host, the group owner, you, right? You don't have to make the group good. The clients make the group good. But when the group is good, the clients will thank you. That's the really cool thing about this, is it doesn't even take much of your involvement. It's all for the clients, but you get all the credit. So that's the group aspect of things, right? And this is really good because it also decreases your churn, because people want to belong. And they also have FOMO. They're like, oh, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on this group chat, right? On this environment, etc., etc. This is like a bonus, right? Well, next thing is sales team. So let's say if your client absolutely sucks at sales, what you want to do is you want to hire, right? So hire, train, and build a sales team for them. Now, granted, this can look very differently, right? You can outsource to a call center, right? Or you could even build an in-house team, right? That's another option. And granted, this could be additional services that you could charge for, right? So you could, let's say if you're going to build an in-house team, it's like, hey, if you pay me $2K, I will build you your own in-house team, right? That's an option you could do. Or it could be something that you add on to your service if they need it, right? Like, for example, let's say if you're getting them so many jobs, the ads are running so well, but they don't have enough time to call leads quick enough, you may need to find people for them. So whether you find a sales team for them, whether you outsource, whether you call, right, whether you find people locally, etc., but helping them with a sales team to get more deals in, right? That's another thing you could do, right? Especially if they're really bad at sales. Actually, if they're bad at sales, that goes into training. But especially for scaling, one thing I've seen with some of the guys that I've helped scale past 20, 30K a month is that one of the best ways to actually help someone scale is not just to, run their ads good in the GOI level, etc. It's not just to do a group, right? But it's actually to help them build sales teams so they can take on more volume, right? Because there comes a point where you just have like, damn, I'm too full, right? There comes a point where you get so good at your delivery, they're like, dude, like I'm stuck. Like I've done everything I can do. Like this is what your clients say to you is, I've done everything I can do. There's not much more, like I can't take on more projects. And so then what you do is you'd help them hire, train, and build a sales team so they could sell more to take on more projects, right? So help them actually expand their company, okay? So that's another thing you could do. That, once again, increases your LTV, decreases churn, and gets your client better results, okay? Third thing is a course. Now, when I say course, I don't mean that you go in Notion, film a bunch of videos like this, and tell your clients what to do. What you do is you pay, and the course actually falls hand in hand with training, is you pay your best client. You could even pay someone that's not a client, but you pay your best client X amount to film modules. And so, for example, what I did for one of the guys that I've consulted, and we scaled his company to about 30K a month, is what we did is we just found his best client who was the best at sales. Like, for context, his clients were struggling with sales. What we did is we looked at his best client and why his best client was so good at sales. What we then did is said, hey man, we'll pay you X or even give you a discount on our service, either or, like I'll give you free marketing or I'll pay you $1,000, etc. if you can film a 30-minute to 2-hour course on how to get better at sales. Okay? And so what the client then does is the client will then go and film, let's say, like a 1-hour course on sales. And the reason why this works so well instead of you filming it is, once again, let's say you're in the real estate niche, right? What do you know about selling real estate? You've never sold real estate. And so therefore, even if you're good at sales and you understand how to do it, people won't believe you, which is why when you pay a client and you actually have someone from the space telling people what to do, it's way more credible. People will be way more likely to consume it and then also apply it. And once again, you were the one that facilitated this, even though you're not the one that's actually saying it. You're the one that facilitated it and gave them access. Therefore, they give you all the credit. It's like when people host certain events, right? Like I see a young, or not young, but less developed entrepreneurs bring in guest speakers. And what they do is, even though everyone gets drawn to the guest speaker, they're like, oh, wow, I got access to this guest speaker because of so-and-so person. right? And this is what people do at masterminds all the time. So people be like, hey, I'm bringing in X, Y, and Z for my mastermind. So if you want to attend and get access to these guys' insights, join. And even though they may not know the person putting it on, they're like, ooh, I'm joining for this person. And therefore, there's more credibility, okay? And the funny thing is this actually goes hand in hand with the calls as well. It's the same thing. Is you can host calls yourself, you can host like tech calls, etc., or just general Q&A, but the best calls is generally when you pay a client, right? So when you pay a client to, and once again, this doesn't really matter. You could do once per week, you could do, once per month. It doesn't really matter. Once a week, once bi-weekly, once a month works fine. And what you do is you just get your client to either give some sort of live training or just a simple Q&A, right? Very simple. And you just pay them for this, right? So once again, you can either pay them and be like, hey, I'll give you, what do you charge per hour? They say $100. So cool, I'll give you $200 an hour, hop on twice a month, give you $400 a month to just sit here and talk to some other clients to help them out. Okay. And, or you could just be like, hey, if you make this training for me and take 2 of these calls, twice a month, I'll give you free marketing forever. Right? Whatever the case may be. And now, once again, look at this. All your clients are already part of this group, so already interacting with each other. Maybe they've gone through the course. Now they get to jump on calls to not only further connect with each other, but also learn from people who are in the space. And this is why it works so well, is because you just pay your client, and guess what? They go, wow, this guy is getting great results, and he's a client of the person I'm with, so clearly what this guy's doing is good. And as a result of me being a client, I get to jump on these calls with this guy who's making a bunch of money, right? Maybe he's making 50, 60, 70K a month, who's going to tell me how to improve my sales, how to improve my business, how to improve X, Y, Z. Right? Wow. Also, and the coolest part about this is if you pay a client is your client. And so everything he talks about, you can kind of relate back to your service as well. Like, oh yeah, do this and do that and do this. And therefore, it's subtly planting the seed to stay with you to not ever churn as well. And once again, they just get their questions answered on calls without you having to do anything. And once again, it looks way more credible when you pay a client to do this. And the last thing is training, which is very similar to courses. Okay. It's just where you could put on live trainings, right? You could do even like special events. Okay, so you could do like events, like a 3-day, whatever event, or once again, you could do like pre-recorded, right? So you could record modules, etc. Or once again, you would get your clients to record these modules. And then turn these into trainings that you could give all your clients that they could go through, right? So for example, it's like when they get on board, it's like, hey, go through this quick training, put on one of our clients making 50K a month about how he calls the leads that we send him, right? That'd be a really good idea for a training you could make, right? So like typical trainings would be, if I had to just list off the top of my head, would be calling leads, right? So calling leads is a really good training to have one of your clients do. I would say show up, like how to make people actually show up to the call, right? How to close, right? And then even like some tips for like servicing, right? So servicing, and then even like referrals, right? Maybe you have a guy who's really good at getting a bunch of referrals in your group, and so maybe you ask him, hey man, I'll pay you $200 if you could just film me a quick little thing on how you get referrals so often, right? And then he shares a strategy, boom, he makes a quick bit of money. You have this asset you get to keep for the rest of your life that you get to leverage as well. And once again, just makes your service more valuable without you having to do anything more. And so this is really like, there's obviously more things you could do. Like there's other things you could implement, but on a real, actually, I would say high level, but even we've gone pretty in depth here. This is like the core chunk, right? Like, of course, you can start to turn your thing into a SaaS, right? Like this is always an option, okay? As you can start to like make your back end thing into a service or into a software, right? And get clients like white label the software, yada, 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 right? Like that's something you could do. You could even take like equity in their businesses, although this has nothing to do with deliverables, etc., right? But I would say fundamentally, these are some of the core things that will really, like, this is really, really going to get you the best results, is probably the group, and then honestly, these as well. Like the sales team, the course, the calls are like where you're going to get some really, 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 really good results. So yeah, I think that's about it. I think I've covered just about everything that I wanted to kind of talk about on how you can make your clients worth more and how I made my clients worth more, and how you could do it as well, right? Just some ideas of things you can implement to not only make your service better, but also get your clients better results so they stay longer, so you make more money, so you ultimately have a better business. Okay? So boom, bam, biddly bam, there's that. If you have any questions, I've got a free Discord every single Monday. I host free calls, and you can even just chat with me in there. Go check it out. There's a link in the description below. So if you have any questions, you can ask them in there. Otherwise, go make yourself some more money and implement this stuff to get your clients better results in the process.